Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about the Warren Truck Assembly Plant. Now over the past week there's been a lot of news revolving around Warren Truck, and I figured hey, we'll talk about it because not only does it have to do with the new Grand Wagoneer lineup, but it also has to, deal with a new full-size SUV that's coming, as well as a production idle. So I wanted to talk about some of the things that are going on at the plant and kind of go through the news. So yesterday, if you follow me on Mopar Insiders, I posted this. This came hot off the Detroit News' announcement saying that Stellantis has idled the Warren Truck Assembly Plant for 3 weeks because of a supplier fire. Now, again, we're going to talk about this, but I want to go through what kind of other things have happened to Warren Truck over the past week. So earlier in the week, we actually got to see this. This was the actual reveal of the 2026 Jeep Grand Wagoneer. Now, this is a new product, not all new because it's a mid-cycle refresh, but what Jeep is doing is it's basically unifying the Wagoneer and Grand Wagoneer lineups. So instead of having two nameplates and making it very confusing for people who are looking at buying one of these SUVs, what they're doing is they're making it all Grand Wagoneer from this point on. Now, that doesn't mean that the vehicle's getting more expensive, but what it means is basically one lineup. So the Wagoneer name will kind of be absorbed by the Grand Wagoneer and the lineups will be coexist. So meaning that the Grand Wagoneer got a whole new lineup. It has a base model Grand Wagoneer, an Upland, 2 limited packages, and 2 Summit packages. So again, instead of having the Series 1 and 2 and 3 for both the Wagoneer and Grand Wagoneer, it just made it really confusing for people that walked in the dealers. This is supposed to bring the Grand Wagoneer nameplate back to Jeep, as well as make it less confusing for those buyers and make it more of like how the other vehicles in the Jeep lineup are. It's a good move. They're only going to have one powertrain for 2026, and a lot of that has to do with another vehicle we're going to be talking about. But they are going to have the standard output Hurricane engine, so 420 horsepower, 469 pound-feet of torque. And again, it's basically a very streamlined lineup for 2026. So there are some new options, some new colors. They're adding a lot of new colors to the actual list, which are really cool because they have steel blue now. They have ghost as 2 of the colors that we've seen at the media scene at the Chrysler Tech Center when we were there about a week and a half ago. So again, a lot of new exciting things coming for Grand Wagoneer. On top of that, we actually got to see at the media reveal the Grand Wagoneer range-extending electric vehicle. But I did get to see this vehicle in person. It was in that new ghost color. I'm sure if you go to TFL, you'll see it. But it was very interesting that they showed us this vehicle because it had 4xe badging on it. And what Jeep CEO Bob Borderdorf basically said is this vehicle will probably launch without the 4xe nameplate on it. Now, he's going to basically go through the Jeep lineup and kind of change the nameplates around. And the reason being is he says that it's very confusing to people because when we talk about 4xEs here in North America, we automatically go to plug-in hybrids. Now over in Europe, because they launched Jeep Compass 4xe, which is all electric, it doesn't it kind of clashes with the two. And it's just kind of confusing, people that know about Jeep products. So what he's looking at doing is probably the 4xe name will stay with the plug-ins. The all-electric vehicles will get something else, and the range-extending vehicles will get a different name. So it's less confusing. So when you talk about something, especially if you're at a dealer and you want a certain powertrain, you're not kind of like, oh yeah, I want this. And do you mean a Grand Cherokee 4xe, or do you mean the range-extending Grand Wagoneer? So again, it just kind of I would say streamlines the lineup. So that's big news. This vehicle is going to be crazy because it's going to have the same powertrain as the Ram 1500 Ram Charger, which after the all-electric REV was canceled is now named the REV, so it's very confusing. So if I say Ram Charger, I'll usually say REV after it because I still think of it as the Ram Charger. But if you actually look at what this vehicle has, it has 647 horsepower, 620 pound-feet of torque. We don't know towing numbers yet, but since the Ram Charger, aka the REV, has 14,000 pounds of towing capability, I assume that this would have probably over 12,000, considering that the standard output Hurricane engines can tow up to 10. 8-lug axles, looks exactly like the standard one, the gas-powered one, other than the 8-lug axles and the charge port door. So again, you're going to have multiple trim levels. They haven't announced a lot of details on it, but we got to see the actual vehicle and we got to see the platform and everything. And it's a basically identical to the Ramcharger or REEV platform. Everything's pretty much the same. And the really big difference between the two is the range numbers. So the Grand Wagoneer will actually have 500 miles of range, where the Ramcharger REEV will have 690, and that has to do with an HVAC packaging issue. So because the Grand Wagoneer has a 3-row setup, and there's an HVAC system for the rear third row, they had to package the fuel tank a little different. So there's a fuel tank on board which basically fuels the generator, which is a 3.6 liter Pentastar V6. You can go through and watch my whole video on the REEV, I should say, the range extending electric vehicle. But basically what they did was they made the Grand Wagoneer have a 20-gallon fuel tank instead of 27. So that's the big difference between the two vehicles. Other than that, they're pretty much the same. Same EDMs, same inverter, same generator, all that stuff. So there's a lot of excitement behind this vehicle. And again, the Jeep management said that they predict that this will be probably more competitive than what a plug-in would be in the segment. Again, they said also that the pricing should be very aggressive. So they didn't release pricing. They didn't tell us a production date just yet. The reason being is, according to Broderdorf and what he said about him and Antonio Filosa, they are sticklers for quality control. If they're not ready to release something, the new Stellantis under Antonio's leadership basically will not do it. They're going to make sure that this thing launches properly. They're expected to release it sometime in the first or second quarter of 2026. But if it's not ready, they will not launch it. So they don't want to screw up like they did with the Charger Daytona and the Wagoneer S, and it makes sense. So again, a lot of excitement, but this truck will be built at Warren Truck alongside the gas-powered one. On top of that, that very day that we actually were able to have the embargo drop and we could release all this information, Stellantis went out and basically announced that they were doing a $13 billion investment in the U.S. And of that $13 billion, $100 million was going to Warren Truck for an all-new SUV. So again, they're going to be building a full-size SUV on top of the Grand Wagoneer there, which ultimately should add more jobs. They said 900 jobs roughly back to Warren Truck. Very next day after the announcement, Antonio Filosa had a massive town hall meeting with Stellantis employees. I talked to several people that watched the actual town hall meeting with him, and Antonio didn't specifically say what vehicle was going to come to Warren Truck. He didn't say what brand or anything, but he did show a slide on the screen, and it showed the lineup of vehicles that they're working on, and the current vehicles as well. And underneath the Ram lineup, there was an SUV that was underneath a car cover. Now, the Dodge lineup showed the Durango, but it showed nothing above that. So, again, it kind of leads that this vehicle will be a Ram. It makes sense since the Ramcharger REEV is being built, and this is going to be a range-extending vehicle as well. It's going to be a full-size vehicle, body-on-frame chassis, so it kind of goes hand-in-hand with the old Ramcharger. Maybe this will have the Ramcharger name. We don't know, because the Ramcharger was an SUV back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Again, the Dodge portfolio didn't show a new SUV at all. That was going to be bigger than the Durango, from what I was told. And the other big news was it wouldn't make any sense for Jeep to put another full-size vehicle in there, because Jeep, honestly, just got rid of the Wagoneer and streamlined their lineup. And then on top of it, I've been following Chris Fuel, the Chrysler CEO, for all summer long. I've been at several events where she's talked about future product. I was at the DYC media event for the 100th anniversary. She talked about the future lineup. I was at the Chrysler Carlisle Nationals and talked to her there. Again, she didn't say nothing about a full-size SUV there. She's talked about a revamped Pacifica for 2026, for the 2026 or for the 2027 model year, but for 2026 coming out. We know that they're working on a D segment crossover. She talked about a possible Chrysler 300 sedan replacement, and then she's also talked about a compact crossover and a small car, but never has she said anything about a full-size SUV. So after hearing talking to the people that watch this thing and actually listen, the different CEOs over the summer, I can honestly say that I 100% believe that this vehicle will be a Ram SUV. So, with that being said, another huge exciting thing for Warren Truck, considering 900 more jobs added to the plant, or bringing back 900 jobs, I should say. So hopefully they'll get a nice second shift going on, and hopefully there's a bigger future for Warren Truck even after this Ram SUV or whatever it is comes to the lineup. Now, the big news is during the past week, I actually got a couple of messages from people that follow me on Mopar Insiders. And one of them was this email. It says, "Attention, due to a fire at the Novelis aluminum factory in Oswego County, there is an aluminum shortage that affects the hoods and doors at Warren Truck Assembly Plant. The plant is scheduled to be down October 13th to November 2nd. And then it gives basically a link to an article of the fire. So we don't even have to go to that link. We can actually go to Novelis' actual website. This is their actual website, and they've done an excellent job of updating it because of the fire. So this is the actual plant's page where you can usually find all the facts and stuff. But what they've done is they've been going through every couple weeks and doing updates of what's been happening with the actual fix at the plant. So we're just going to go through that, and I'll kind of give you guys an update. So it says, on September 16th, a fire broke out at our Oswego plant. Fortunately, no injuries resulted from the fire or its efforts to extinguish it. Novelis is working around the clock to restore the plant to full operation and safely and quickly as possible. Now, if we go down to the bottom, it basically goes from the bottom up because of the dates, but you can see the background here. And they do things for Ford, so like the F-150s and stuff. So this isn't just a Stellantis supply chain issue. This is affecting a lot of automakers, including Ford. So keep that in mind. But if we go here, this is the first update they actually did on the page. It says, around 10 p.m. on Tuesday, September 16th, a fire broke out at our Oswego plant. Fortunately, no injuries resulted from the fire and the efforts to put it out, which was mainly complete around 2 a.m. on the 17th. Damage of the fire was localized to the hot mill area, but other production centers were temporarily impacted due to various reasons, mainly water. So again, when the fire department's spraying water all over the roof, they had water damage and all that stuff. It says the cold mill and finishing areas are back online and operational, while power is being restored to the remelt recycle area, which is expected to restart soon. Structural damage from the fire is limiting our ability to fully assess the hot mill equipment at this time. Work to stabilize the structure in order to gain access to the hot mill is nearly final. Recovery of the hot mill is expected in the Q1 of calendar year 2026. We are coordinating with Novelis plants worldwide to source materials and minimize customer interruptions as much as possible. The cause of the fire is still being investigated. Our teams are working around the clock to restore the plant to full operation as safely and as quickly as possible. Then we can go to October 6th. So you can see like every week they've been updating it, which is really nice. It says, we are urgently taking steps to minimize the impact of the recent fire at our Oswego facility on our customers. We have activated a Novelis global network of plants and are also partnering with industry peers to source material in order to help mitigate the gap in supply. At the same time, we are working around the clock to restore the Oswego facility's hot mill. Based on what we know today, we expect the hot mill to be back in operation in early Q1 of the calendar year 2026. So again, there's still a couple months out. That's how bad this fire was. And then we go to a couple days later. They went to October 10th. This is the last time they updated it. They haven't updated it since. But it says a small fire occurred during the roof repair work at the Novelis Oswego, New York plant on October 10th. So again, this is another fire on top of that. Just after midnight, but was quickly extinguished. Nobody was injured, and work on the roof continued after the fire was extinguished. The incident was minor and will not affect the recovery timing for our hot mill operations, which is expected in early Q1 of 2026. So they had a second fire on top of that. So again, because this company is so big, they're actually resourcing different materials, so they won't have to actually make aluminum. They actually produce the aluminum supply for the door panels, because the door panels are stamped out later. But again, because of that whole production process, unfortunately, it's actually delayed the 2026 Grand Wagoneer. So the Grand Wagoneer was actually supposed to be rolled out for the 2026 model year. It was supposed to start production later this month. And unfortunately, because of that, it's actually been postponed to the end of November. So basically production has been pushed back a whole month. So again, a small delay in the 2026 Grand Wagoneer. I know a lot of dealerships were hoping to get this vehicle in to dealers before Christmas. It doesn't look like, if it does happen, it's going to be really localized dealers, like maybe in the Midwest. But we will probably see this vehicle rolling into dealers in the first quarter of 2026. So again, new products from Jeep are coming. It's just the Grand Wagoneer has been delayed by a month at least. So keep that in mind. I hope this information is useful for you guys that are actually excited about the Grand Wagoneer. But keep your fingers crossed. Seems like that plant will be back. The one in Oswego will be back online in the first quarter, and then production at Warren Truck should go back to normal. And again, hopefully we'll be seeing these new Grand Wagoneers in dealerships probably around Christmas time here and maybe around the Midwest, and then rolling out to the rest of the country after the first of the year. So stay tuned. Can't wait to show you guys more about this new Grand Wagoneer. It's an awesome vehicle, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.
Work continues tonight to pinpoint how and why fire ripped through part of the Novelis plant in Oswego County.
Started after 10 last night and burned for hours before around 20 or so departments finally put out the fire. News Channel 9's Alexander Dern has this update.
The Novelis plant employs over 1,000 people from the Oswego County region, and they couldn't show up to work today. The mayor of Oswego tells me moving forward, they're going to try to help in any way they can.
We're going to certainly assess what we can do for them. The factory is outside the city of Oswego. Actually, it's in the town of Scriba. But whatever we can do, we will assist.
One local business owner has family and friends who have worked at Novelis going on 60 years strong. He worries for them and the impact this fire could have on the city.
When I need a new piece of equipment or I have something like that happen, lining contractors up is months. Getting the permits you need to do to rebuild is months. My equipment lead time could be 6 months a year to get the stuff in. So there's a lot of factors that are going to fall into this that, hopefully we can. The one good thing about our community is the county, the city, the mayor, and our state representative, Will Barkley, they all work well together.
Novelis will provide more information on the status of the plant in the coming days. In Scriba, Alexandra Dern, News Channel 9.
The company says the fire did start in a hot mill, but why they're still looking at. They're also still assessing the damage and how that could impact operations.